Ramon Torres pushed his cleaning cart down the sterile hallway of St. Agnes Hospital at 11:45 at night. The third-floor bathrooms were his last stop before his shift ended at midnight. He had worked as a janitor here for 6 years, ever since immigrating from El Salvador. The work was honest, the pay covered his small apartment, and nobody bothered him. Ramon preferred it that way. He had seen enough violence in his home country to last a lifetime. America was supposed to be safe, quiet, boring. He wanted boring. Ramon entered the men's bathroom near the cardiac wing and immediately noticed the expensive phone lying on the sink counter. It was a sleek black model, probably worth more than Ramon made in a month. The screen was still lit, showing an unread text message. Ramon's English was not perfect, but he could read the words clearly. The hit is tonight. Midnight. Room 412. Make it look natural. Ramon's blood turned to ice. His hands started shaking as he stared at the message. Room 412 was on this floor just down the hall. Someone was planning to kill a patient in less than 15 minutes. His first instinct was to call the police, but his second instinct, born from years of surviving in dangerous places, told him to be careful. Whoever owned this phone was dangerous. The message had come from a contact labeled only V. Ramon scrolled up through the conversation, his heart pounding. The previous messages made everything worse. Boss wants the judge eliminated. Heart attack. No witnesses. Understood. I am in position at the hospital. His security detail leaves at 11:30. Window is narrow. Ramon realized he was holding a phone that belonged to someone planning a murder. But whose phone was it? The hitman's? Or someone else's? He checked the phone's home screen and saw the wallpaper. A family photo showing a sharp-dressed man in his 50s, a beautiful woman, and 2 teenage boys. Ramon did not recognize the family at first. Then he noticed something in the background of the photo. A restaurant called Castellanos. Every person in New York knew that name. Castellanos was owned by the Moretti crime family, one of the most powerful mafia organizations on the East Coast. Ramon's mouth went dry. This was not just any phone. This belonged to someone connected to the Moretti family. He looked at the text message again, reading it more carefully. The hit is tonight. Midnight. Room 412. Whoever sent this message was telling the phone's owner about the planned assassination. The phone's owner had not responded yet. Ramon checked the time. 11:47. 13 minutes until midnight. 13 minutes until someone murdered a patient down the hall. Ramon knew he should run. He should leave the phone, finish his shift, and pretend he never saw anything. Getting involved with the Mafia was suicide. But someone innocent was about to die. Ramon made a decision that terrified him. He slipped the phone into his pocket and pushed his cart quickly down the hallway toward room 412. His mind raced with possibilities. Maybe he could warn the patient. Maybe he could call hospital security. Maybe he was making the worst mistake of his life. As he approached room 412, he saw 2 men in suits standing near the elevator. They looked out of place in a hospital at midnight, too alert, too watchful. Security detail, Ramon thought. But the text message said the security detail left at 11:30. Why were these men still here? Unless they were not the patient's security. Unless they were the killers. Ramon's heart hammered as he walked past them, pushing his cleaning cart casually. Neither man looked at him. Janitors were invisible to people like them. Ramon stopped at room 412 and knocked softly. Housekeeping, he called out quietly. A rough voice answered from inside. Come back later. I am trying to sleep. Ramon knocked again more urgently. Sir, please. Emergency. I need to speak with you. There was movement inside the room, then the door opened. The man standing there was in his 60s, wearing a hospital gown and connected to an IV drip. He had the look of someone important. Gray hair styled perfectly even in a hospital, sharp eyes that missed nothing, and a presence that commanded respect. Ramon recognized him immediately from news reports. Judge William Castellano, the same last name as the restaurant. He was famous for prosecuting organized crime cases, for putting away dozens of Mafia members over his 30-year career. He was also, if the rumors were true, related to the Moretti family through his late wife. A judge who had turned against his own family connections to uphold the law. No wonder someone wanted him dead. "What do you want?" Judge Castellano asked impatiently. Ramon glanced at the two men by the elevator. They were watching now, hands moving inside their jackets. Ramon pulled out the phone and showed it to the judge. "I found this in the bathroom. There is a message. Someone is coming to kill you at midnight. 3 minutes from now." The judge's expression did not change, but his eyes hardened. He took the phone from Ramon's hand and read the message quickly. "Where did you find this?" "On the sink counter in the men's bathroom." The judge scrolled through the conversation, his jaw tightening with each message he read. "This phone belongs to my nephew, Carlo Moretti. He must have left it when he visited me earlier tonight." He looked at Ramon with new intensity. "You read these messages?" Ramon nodded. "I am sorry, sir, but you are in danger. Those men by the elevator are not my security detail," the judge finished grimly. "My Real security left at 11:30, exactly as planned." The judge moved quickly despite his foredrip. He pressed the call button for the nurse's station repeatedly, but nothing happened. "They cut the lines," he said quietly. "Professional job. The night nurse probably thinks the button is malfunctioning." He looked at Ramon with calculating eyes. "What is your name?" "Ramon Torres, sir. I clean this floor." "Ramon Torres, you just saved my life by bringing me this phone. But now we are both in danger. Those men will not leave witnesses." Ramon's worst fear was confirmed. He should have stayed out of this. He should have let fate take its course. But he could not stand by and watch murder happen, not even to save himself. "What do we do?" Ramon asked, his voice shaking. The judge looked at the phone again, then at the door. "My nephew Carlo sent this phone to warn me. He must have discovered the plot and left his phone where someone honest would find it." "Why not just call you directly?" Ramon asked. The judge smiled grimly. "Because Carlo is being watched. If he warned me directly, his own family would kill him for betraying them. But if he accidentally left his phone in a bathroom where a janitor might find it, that gives him plausible deniability." Ramon understood. Carlo Moretti was trying to save his uncle without signing his own death warrant. It was clever, but it put Ramon directly in the crossfire. "Those men will come through that door any second," the judge said. "When they do, they will inject something into my 4. Potassium chloride, most likely. It will stop my heart instantly. The autopsy will show a heart attack, exactly what I am here for. No evidence of murder." He disconnected his 4 with practiced efficiency. "We need to get out of this room." Ramon looked at the door. The two men were walking toward them now, hands inside their jackets. No time to run." "The window," Ramon said suddenly. "There is a fire escape." Judge Castellano looked at him like he was crazy. "I just had heart surgery 3 days ago. I cannot climb down a fire escape." "You cannot stay here either," Ramon said firmly. He rushed to the window and opened it, feeling the cold November air rush in. The fire escape was old and rusty, but it looked stable. The two men were at the door now. Ramon heard the handle turn. The judge made his decision. He moved toward the window with surprising speed for someone recovering from surgery. Ramon helped him through, supporting his weight as they stepped onto the metal grating of the fire escape. Behind them, the door burst open. 2 men entered the room, guns with silencers already drawn. They saw the open window and rushed toward it. Ramon and the judge were already descending the fire escape, moving as fast as the judge's weakened condition allowed. A bullet pinged off the metal railing above Ramon's head, the silencer making it sound like a quiet cough. Ramon pulled the judge lower, urging him to move faster. They were only on the third floor, but it felt like 100 stories as they climbed down the shaking fire escape. The judge was breathing hard, his face pale with pain and exertion. "I cannot make it," he gasped. Ramon looked up and saw one of the gunmen climbing through the window onto the fire escape. "You have to make it," Ramon insisted. He half-carried the judge down the final flight of stairs. They dropped into a dark alley behind the hospital, landing hard on the wet pavement. The judge cried out in pain, clutching his chest. Ramon pulled him up and dragged him toward the street. They needed to get somewhere public, somewhere with witnesses and cameras. The hospital parking lot was their best chance. Ramon's cleaning cart was still on the third floor, along with his jacket and his wallet. He had nothing but the judge and the phone in his pocket. They stumbled out of the alley into the parking lot, the judge leaning heavily on Ramon's shoulder. Ramon could hear footsteps behind them, running. The gunmen were coming. "My car," the judge gasped, pointing to a black Mercedes in the executive parking area. "Keys in my room." They had no keys, no time, and no options. Ramon looked around desperately for help. The parking lot was nearly empty at midnight. Then he saw the security booth near the exit, a guard visible through the window. "There!" Ramon shouted. They ran toward the booth, the judge stumbling with each step. Ramon pounded on the window. "Help! Someone is trying to kill us." The security guard, a young man barely out of his 20s, looked up from his phone with confusion. "What?" "Sir, calm down." A bullet shattered the window of the booth, missing the guard's head by inches. The guard dove to the floor, finally understanding the danger. He grabbed his radio. "Code black. Shots fired in the parking lot. I need backup now." Ramon pulled the judge behind a concrete pillar as more bullets struck around them. The gunmen were getting closer, no longer bothering with silencers. They wanted this finished quickly, witnesses or no witnesses. The judge was gasping for breath, his hospital gown soaked with sweat. "Ramon," he said weakly, "take the phone. Get it to the police. The messages are evidence. They prove the Moretti family ordered this hit." Ramon shook his head. "I am not leaving you." "You have to," the judge insisted. "I am already dead. This heart will not survive much more stress. But you can make sure my death means something. Get that phone to the police. Bring down the people who did this." Before Ramon could respond, sirens filled the air. Hospital security was arriving, along with the sound of police cars in the distance. The gunmen heard the sirens too. They stopped advancing, exchanging quick glances. One of them spoke into a phone. "Target is still alive. Security is here. We need to abort." They disappeared back into the hospital, blending in with the chaos of staff and patients responding to the emergency. Ramon held the judge against the pillar, feeling his pulse weaken. "Stay with me," Ramon begged. "Help is coming." The judge smiled faintly. "I have been on borrowed time since the surgery. But you, Ramon Torres, you are a hero. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." Hospital security reached them first, followed quickly by paramedics and police officers. They loaded Judge Castellano onto a stretcher and rushed him back into the hospital. A police officer tried to separate Ramon from the judge, but Ramon refused to let go of the phone. "This is evidence," Ramon said firmly. "I need to speak to someone in charge. Right now." Detective Angela Rossi arrived 20 minutes later. She was a hard-faced woman in her 40s with skeptical eyes that had seen too many lies. She took Ramon to a private office and listened as he explained everything. Finding the phone, the text message, the assassination attempt, the fire escape. She examined the phone carefully, scrolling through the messages. "This phone belongs to Carlo Moretti," she said finally. "We have been trying to get evidence against the Moretti family for years. This might be the break we need." She looked at Ramon closely. "You understand what you have done tonight. You have made yourself a target. The Moretti family does not forgive witnesses." Ramon felt the weight of those words settle on his shoulders. He had wanted a quiet life, a boring life. Now he had placed himself directly in the crosshairs of the Mafia. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Detective Rossi made several phone calls, speaking in low tones. Finally she turned back to Ramon. "Judge Castellano is stable for now. His heart took a beating, but the doctors think he will survive. You saved his life." Pause. "We are going to need your testimony. With this phone and your witness statement, we can connect the Moretti family directly to an attempted murder of a federal judge. That is enough to bring them down." Ramon nodded slowly. "And me? What happens to me?" "Witness protection if you want it. New identity, new city, new life. It is the only way to keep you safe." Ramon thought about his small apartment, his quiet routine, his 6 years of invisible work. All of it would disappear. But he thought about Judge Castellano fighting for his life, about Carlo Moretti risking everything to warn his uncle, about the choice between doing nothing and doing what was right. "I will testify," Ramon said. The next 3 months passed in a blur of depositions, safe houses, and federal agents. Ramon learned that Carlo Moretti had indeed left the phone intentionally, knowing his uncle was in danger but unable to warn him directly. Carlo's fingerprints were all over the phone, and security footage showed him leaving the bathroom without it. The phone records, combined with Ramon's testimony, led to arrests throughout the Moretti organization. The 2 gunmen were identified and caught trying to flee the country. They flipped on their bosses in exchange for reduced sentences, providing even more evidence. The man who ordered the hit, Vincent V. Moretti, the current boss of the family, was arrested along with 6 of his top lieutenants. Judge Castellano recovered from his heart surgery and personally thanked Ramon in a secret meeting arranged by the FBI. "You gave me a second chance at life," the judge said, shaking Ramon's hand. "More importantly, you helped bring down the organization that has terrorized this city for decades." Carlo Moretti disappeared before the arrests began. Detective Rossi told Ramon that he was likely in witness protection himself, having betrayed his family to save his uncle. "He knew leaving that phone would eventually lead back to him," Rossi explained. "He sacrificed everything to do the right thing. Just like you." Ramon thought about that often during his final days in New York. He had never considered himself brave. He was just a janitor who cleaned bathrooms and emptied trash cans. But somehow, he had become the key witness in the biggest organized crime case in New York history. The trial lasted 6 weeks. Ramon testified for 2 days, telling the jury exactly what he had seen and found. The defense attorneys tried to discredit him, calling him an illegal immigrant looking for a green card, a janitor who had fabricated evidence. But the phone records did not lie. The text messages were real. The assassination attempt was real. Vincent Moretti was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, along with racketeering, drug trafficking, and a dozen other charges. He received 4 consecutive life sentences. His lieutenants received similar sentences. The Moretti crime family, which had controlled New York for 50 years, was effectively destroyed. On the day of the verdict, Ramon sat in the courtroom and watched Vincent Moretti be led away in chains. The Mafia boss looked directly at Ramon as he passed, his eyes promising future revenge. But Ramon did not look away. He had spent his whole life being invisible, trying not to be noticed, avoiding confrontation. That man was gone now. The man who remained had stared down killers on a fire escape and lived to tell about it. After the trial, Ramon entered the witness protection program. The U.S. Marshals gave him a new name, new documents, and relocated him to a small town in Oregon. He got a job as a maintenance worker at a community college. Nobody there knew who he really was or what he had done. Sometimes late at night, Ramon thought about that November evening when he found a phone in a hospital bathroom. He thought about the split-second decision to get involved instead of walking away. If he had made a different choice, Judge Castellano would be dead. The Moretti family would still be operating. Carlo Moretti would not have had to disappear. And Ramon would still be invisible, pushing his cleaning cart through hospital hallways, unknown and unnoticed. Was it worth it? The answer changed depending on the day. Some days, Ramon missed his old life terribly. He missed the city, the familiarity of his routine, the community of other immigrants he had known. Other days, he looked at himself in the mirror and saw someone different. Someone who had stood up when it mattered. Someone who had saved a life and helped bring criminals to justice. Someone who was no longer invisible. A year after the trial, Ramon received an unexpected visitor at his new apartment in Oregon. Detective Rossi stood at his door, holding a folder. "I wanted to deliver this personally," she said, handing him the folder. Inside were official documents. A green card with his new name, a letter from the Department of Justice thanking him for his service, and a check for $50,000 from the Federal Witness Reward Program. But what caught Ramon's attention was the newspaper clipping at the bottom of the folder. It showed Judge Castellano back on the bench, presiding over cases again. The headline read, "Hero Judge Returns After Assassination Attempt." There was a photo of the judge in his robes, looking healthy and strong. Someone had written in the margin in neat handwriting, "Thank you for giving me more time with my family. You will always be remembered as the man who stood up when others would have walked away." W.C. Ramon folded the clipping carefully and placed it in his wallet. It would stay there always, a reminder that invisible people can change the world when they choose to see what others ignore. He had found a phone in a bathroom and decided to do something about it. That simple choice had saved lives, destroyed a criminal empire, and transformed a janitor into a hero. Sometimes, Ramon thought, the most important decisions happen in the most ordinary moments. All you have to do is choose courage over comfort. Choose action over apathy. Choose to be visible when the world needs you to stand and be counted. Ramon Torres had made that choice. And he would make it again.